Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Just Two Dads with my co-host, Mr. Sean Francis. I am Brian Haltunian. A lot of crazy stuff going on. Episode number, we think 146. Now, we've been doing this for about 3.5 years. Today's conversation is with an amazing, there are people who you're sure that they are octopus or from the octopus family because they are juggling so many different things. But our guest today is an author, among other things. We're going to be talking about that and her work with children with hearing issues and hearing difficulties. I'm a couple of things really fast before we get started. It is Sean Francis's birthday today, so I don't want to forget because knowing me, I will forget. It's Sean Francis's birthday today, so I want to say happy birthday, Sean. I'm at the Rare Advocacy Summit from the Global Genes Conference, so I'm speaking today. So I'm a little remote, and I'm going to be leaving a little early, but this is going to be a great episode because Michelle is phenomenal. I can't wait for you guys to all meet her. So hang on for another episode of Just Two Dads. That didn't work. Didn't seem like it's working. Does that work? Did it come up? Didn't work. This is why we go live, Michelle. This is what happens because this is real life, right? This is craziness. Welcome back, everybody. I am Brian Haltunian, along with Sean Francis, episode 146. We started this podcast about 3.5 years, about 3 years ago. Decided we wanted to shine the spotlight on amazing people who are doing great things for the special needs community. We have an amazing guest today, and I'm also, I'm at the Rare Advocacy Summit, Global Genes Conference. People come together for rare genetic diseases and servicing them. So I'm speaking at today's conference. So I'll be leaving our podcast probably halfway through, but putting in the very, very capable hands of Mr. Sean Francis. So if you're catching us live on Facebook, we're excited for you to be hearing about Michelle and Michelle's journey and who she is. And if you're catching us after the fact on our YouTube channel at Just Two Dads, welcome. Thanks for making us part of your day. If you're catching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and share the content. Because I think when you hear Michelle's story, you're going to want to share this content with folks. If you're hearing us on podcast outlets, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever, thank you for making us part of your listening day. And the same goes true for our folks down at WSTX AM radio in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Thanks for having us be a part of your day. Whew. I think that was everything, right? I think I got it all in.
I think you got it all in. Yes,
little harried, but I am excited for today's conversation. I'm going to mute myself a couple of times just because it's loud in the room that I'm at this conference. There are a lot of people here at this conference. It's kind of amazing. But without further ado, and to introduce our guest in a little more detail, I'm going to hand it over to our birthday boy. I'm not going to say how old he is because he is eternally young. When I first met Sean 8 plus years ago, and he told me how old he was, I was like, there's no way, dude, you are that old, because you look like a 30-year-old. So anyways, Sean Francis, my birthday boyfriend, how are you feeling today?
I am feeling great and blessed, and really blessed, more so than usual. I've been pondering it because, I have no shame in it. I'm more amazed than anything. Today's my 59th birthday, and I just find it and us as human beings so amazing. And it ties into why we decided to do this show, just to shine a spotlight on people and make purpose out of life. Our guest today is an author. Okay, as far as I know, she's not from the Caribbean like myself, but she still might fit the family on the old in Living Color skit, the Caribbean family, where, when I was your age, I had a job and I did 5 things. I was the cook, the dishwasher, the manager, the busboy, because she is an author, a realtor. She has a farm. She does a bunch of different things. But at the top of it, she's a mom who is a warrior and fights for the rights of her child who was diagnosed with a hearing disability. And if you can, please welcome to Just Two Dads, Michelle Wagner. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Happy birthday.
Thank you so very much. So the way we begin the show, for those of you that tune in on a regular basis, most of the guests don't see themselves as heroes. Most heroes don't see themselves as heroes. But a hero is what you are, and most heroes have superpowers, and superpowers come from a hero's origin. So let's start there, as we always do, with, where you're from, because those things, where you're from, where and how you were raised, where you were raised literally and metaphorically, have everything to do with how you respond to a diagnosis that your child may have, or any other challenge or blessing for that matter that life may grant you. So why don't we start there, Michelle?
Well, first of all, I believe that every day is a gift. Every day of life is a gift. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. And my parents are still in the same house that I was raised in, and since a baby, married for 46 years, and I have a very strong Italian and Polish heritage, and carried over a lot of traditions from both of those cultures. And although I lived in Chicago, we lived in a small little neighborhood, so neighbors were close. And, I went to a good school. I had two younger sisters. My dad worked full time. My mom stayed at home with us. And I think, they really instilled their, hardworking ethic. I had great grandparents and grandparents, so I was very fortunate in that sense to have a lot of relatives and family close by. My great grandparents had a farm about an hour away from where our house was, and we would go there on the weekends. And I always loved outdoors, even in the snow. But I really took to nature and helping others. Actually, my younger sister, our middle sister, she had learning disabilities, and we would tag along with my mom, to her tutoring and remediation and things like that, which she had at Northwestern University, because my grandmother had worked there in the past. And, I saw my parents always doing their hardest to give us the best possible opportunities to succeed. And I think that was something, I still carry through today in my life.
Michelle, what was your sister's diagnosis, if you don't mind me asking, that you tagged along?
She there was no diagnosis. She just, she had a learning disability.
Learning disabilities, yeah.
So she was held back a year, but she's doing fine and great right now. Nothing kind of compared to like my son and what I've gone through. But I just always saw my parents trying to help other people, whether it was elderly grandparents or neighbors or friends, growing up in a very close, tight-knit family and community is a very special thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. People of service.
That's something to be said for being from a small community. I mentioned it, at the beginning, talking about being from the Caribbean. I'm from the U.S. Virgin Islands, from St. Thomas. I have family on St. Croix, but St. Thomas is like 32 square miles. And there's something to be said for people, looking out for each other in a community. And it's interesting you were talking about your sister. If we look at different times in history, in terms of acknowledgement and diagnosis and things like that, there are people that are misdiagnosed, and then there are diagnoses that are missed. And so it's interesting how that would take place, despite their attempt to try and figure out, well, what is it that's taking place? There isn't anything that's there. I've mentioned on a couple occasions that I'm pretty convinced that there's a diagnosis of some kind missed with me, just in terms of how I process things. But I was listening to a podcast the other day, an episode of a show by mentor of ours, a gentleman by the name of Ed Milet, where the guest on there was talking about, and I always say how anything that I feel affects the general population affects the special needs community twice as much. And we've always been led to believe that our past dictates our future, or how we perceive the past. There was a notion there that actually says that the present dictates the past. So if you think about the meaning that we give to things that we've experienced, it shapes how we operate today. And I think that that's so fascinating, especially looking at a situation with your sister where there wasn't a diagnosis. But anyway, I'm in the ramble zone, so please continue.
No, I think that's great, and I think that that whatever the past has brought us led us to the choices that we made and what we chose to do with the life we were handed makes a huge difference. And I believe happiness is also a choice, and I think a lot of people have different types of challenges, and I have my own challenges, but it's just like if you power through, or just try to do your best, if you have the right attitude, I think, and like anything is possible. And I danced my whole life, and I found out when I was 16 I had herniated discs and scoliosis, and
Wow.
I had to take time off and do like 3 months of hardcore physical therapy. And then I got right back out there because I wanted to finish like the senior year, and then went on to be a cheerleader in college. But I had to quit at some point because, an active lifestyle, there's way to work through anything, I believe.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Go ahead, Sean, you can ask.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, so at this point you were telling us, so you're talking about, high school, and then leading into your marriage and becoming a mother. Why don't we sort of follow that path?
Sure. So after high school, I went to college for teaching, and I worked. I always worked 2 or more jobs, to get through school. And then I found out I liked the restaurant business better, and then through that, I worked my way up to management, and through that I met Mickey's father, and who was from California, winemaker and farmer. And I moved out here shortly after that. We got engaged, and then 8 years later, Mickey came along, and was the greatest gift for everybody. And Mickey, we adopted him because I was not getting pregnant, so that was a challenge in itself. And so he was in an orphanage, and we adopted him. And we didn't know at the time that he was deaf.
Wow.
How old was he?
He was
when you adopted him?
16 months, and then 18 months when we finally brought him home. We had to do 2 trips over there to get him.
Where's over there?
He was in an orphanage in Russia.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay. Wow.
There was about 60 kids in the room of, probably the size of your kitchen or smaller. And they didn't, but, he was happy, and he right away, we loved him right away. And after 3 trips there, we got to bring him home, and then, discovered that he wasn't hearing. The ear, nose, and throat specialist here put hearing aids on his head. And then finally we went to a local hospital, specialized, and they discovered that he was completely deaf.
Completely. So not even partial.
Not even partial in both ears.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that was that was hard to hear, but
sure,
we were both, his dad and I were both ready to do whatever we had to do to make Mickey's life successful. We were introduced to cochlear implants, bilateral cochlear implants, which you could read about in the books, but they're the devices. It's an operation where they put a device inside your head.
The head. Yeah, very familiar with them.
Yeah. And so there was a waiting list to get in, and then the operation. And then after you have the operation, I actually have a photo from when Mickey came home from the hospital.
Oh, wow.
That's after the bandage was off, though, because it's like brain surgery or something. And
how old was he then?
At that time, he was 3. So he was about 2 when we got him, and then he was 3 when he had the implants done. And at the time, his dad and I were going through a divorce. And so it was a really challenging point in my life that I learned a lot and I grew a lot. And I have a very supportive family, very supportive community. Mickey's dad's family is also very supportive. And, having a small community like that, very similar to what I grew up with, does help when you're going through a challenge of any sort.
You're living in California at this point, right?
I am. I've been in.
And you're now, and you were then too when he was 3 and went through the process. Yeah.
Right. I moved here in 2002, got married at the beginning of 2004, and then got Mickey in 2010. Gotcha. And I've been in the same area, the same small town ever since I moved here. Yeah. So it's over 20 years.
So in the Napa, Sonoma Valley area of California. Yeah, still that's the wine making country of wine making section of California.
Yeah, very orientated around agriculture. Yeah,
agriculture for sure. So then Mickey is now 12, 13. How old is Mickey?
Now he's 15.
Oh my gosh.
15 in April. Yes. When I wrote the books, he was younger. But
I deal with numbers and finance, so I can calculate numbers easily, clearly.
Yeah. So he.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about the path. No, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going right to the same spot.
Yeah. Tell us about the path then from you've got his diagnosis, the cochlear implants being put in, going through that divorce at the same time. So obviously you've got a path that goes from there towards your purpose in the book and your purpose being redefined and everything. So let's pick it up where we, after you're going through the divorce and the implants have been put in.
So Mickey was implanted and he had to go to several different specialized schools due to his cognitive delays and the hearing and speech part of it. And during, it was as he was getting older and still had trouble communicating, I would have to explain to everybody when we would meet them, new people, what he's wearing on his head and why he's wearing that on his head, and that it helps him hear. And, because at a lot of times he would get frustrated if people didn't understand him. And I mean, he was in constant speech therapy and still is, but it's still, there's a communication barrier. And I believe that communication is essential to succeed in life, any way you look at it. So COVID came around and we were, at home, and that's when I decided to write the books. One book. I didn't know what was going to happen, if it was going to take off or not, just to bring awareness about what cochlear implants are, because adults, not just children, adults, I didn't know what they were before Mickey was implanted.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to bring awareness, educate people, and writing a children's book was an easy way to show, pictures and kind of explain, introduce, not just to our community. I mean, I was doing it for just, our community to have for maybe put in the schools. I didn't know it was going to get awards and things like that. I surely didn't know that. And, everything, how many people it would really help. And I mean, that's what really, that's purpose in itself. But the fact that I could help, not just my son, but a whole, bunch of people, and educate.
Isn't that amazing when it comes to creating something, right? You create it for yourself, and the fact that it benefits others and wins awards and you get acknowledgement and accolades. That's, I love the fact that a lot of creators are humbled when they get some sort of award. And didn't know that this was going to have the kind of impact it did. So
you broke up there a little, Brian. You froze. If you can't tell us, then
I love that. Congratulations, by the way.
You froze there for a second, Brian.
You froze.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that the name of the book is Mickey on the Move for those that can see it on the screen or those listening. Mickey on the Move. And then my question was going to be: did Mickey help you write the book? Was he an instrument? I would think he would be, right, involved in the writing of the message.
Oh, absolutely. He thought it was so cool that I didn't show him anything about it until I found like an illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
And he, he was like, he couldn't believe, he still sometimes can't believe it and can't believe people like it, and he's in it in the book. But I was just like more in shock that it actually came to life, or that it actually happened.
Right.
It's something I never ever imagined doing.
Well, let's
well,
let's look at two things. First, tell us a little bit about the book. What is the book about? And because when you decide, I have this story and this situation, I think there's inspiration that can come from it. Where does one even begin? Because the idea of writing a book is something that, from what you're telling us, isn't something you aspire to do, but the idea aspired to find you. So especially for someone in a situation like that, tell us a little bit about, how that came about, because your thought is kind of like, well, what am I going to write the book about? Tell us about that itself. And then, tell us about, well, why don't we just start there? Tell us a little bit about the book itself, what the book is about. And then we lost Brian. I think he may or may not join us again. He's having technical. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the book is basically just about, a typical day in our life. And at the time, Mickey was, entering 6th grade, and he was finally, here mainstream. So he was at the, our public schools here in St. Helena, and he got to ride his bike to school. And, it just kind of like shows the picture of the cochlear implant so people understand what it is, and how differently, in our household, it was quiet. It has to be quiet because a lot of extra noise distracts Mickey, or it can be overwhelming. And that
is that because of the sensitivity of the implant? Is that how that works?
Yeah. And it's basically like you're wearing 2 computers on your ears. So the attachment, attaches to your cochlea, and then through vibrations and sound. So he hears differently than we hear.
Interesting.
And out like other noise, kind of, pots and pans clinking, or lots of silverware moving around, like in a restaurant, could be overwhelming, or a basketball in a gym. So, in the mornings, so it was Mickey and I living together, just the 2 of us,
right.
Usually, always. And the benefit of that was I could constantly help him with speech. I still go to his speech sessions with him, and that's the whole process. And so the book kind of demonstrates how, how our household is run in order for Mickey to, hear properly, and then how he navigates through school. And then it gives an example, because it was like always the cafeteria was an issue, because it was too loud for him. And so he on his own just started going to the library instead at lunchtime, and other children are in the library too. And the teacher at the time thought, she's like, I don't know, Mickey just goes to the library at lunch, does he need help socializing? And at the time I was coaching his soccer team, very active. Kids were over after school all the time to swim.
You were coaching the soccer team?
Yes.
Hold on, let me write that down. Okay.
Yeah. Add it to the list.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I coached every year he was on, just because, it helped me help him,
Did you start the team, or did you just kind of raise your hand and say, all right, the team needs a coach?
I volunteered. There was just 1 or 2 years where I coached by myself, but usually one of the dads was coaching, and I was the second coach.
Assistant. Yeah.
Right. Because I never played soccer. And, but with the younger kids, they just want to have fun, and you kick the ball. It was, I was more there to bring fresh lemonade and some snacks.
Yeah.
But I ran around there with them.
Okay. Let's keep on that train, because, and you're just so busy being you that you might not even realize what you just said. I've never played soccer. I didn't play sports, but I'm going to coach this team because there's a need. I have no idea of, desire to write a book, never even wondered about it.
Right.
But I'm going to do it, and I don't know how. So continuing with the book, okay, you've got this idea, because there are people that are watching, including Brian and I being here. And I think we have an idea as to how, because we've talked about writing books together and individually. And some of our challenge is our time, but some of it is then
we don't know how to do it.
How am I going to write it and get it out there? So tell us about the process of going from inspiration to fruition, having had no idea how, because I'm sure the same thing applies to the book as well as soccer
and everything else in life. I like to be challenged, let's just say.
Right.
Writing the book, someone had suggested it to me, a friend, through a friend. She writes children's books, and she was writing all these books, Game Day in the USA, and they're about a cheerleader that helps other children with special needs.
That's fantastic.
And travels to all these different cities where these football teams are from. And she hadn't done a book yet on the 49ers. And she said, I think you should write a book about Mickey, so that then Mickey can be the person I come visit in, the Bay Area for the 49ers book.
Wow.
And so, I literally took a shot at it. And I said, well, who's your publisher? I still don't remember, it seems like a blur, everything.
That's amazing, because you could see when you get the link after we wrap and you get the chance to go back and look at the show, look at this point. We're at 27:06 into the interview, into our time today. Look at the look on your face, because you just said something and stepped outside yourself. You're like, I asked her, who's your publisher? And then the look on your face, you could tell that you're thinking, what kind of nerve did I have asking who her publisher is, and I haven't even published a book yet? But it's very, but it's very insightful, though. It is. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I just followed the steps and started writing. Mm-hmm. And I really did not know what was going to come of it. I just took a shot at it.
And the fact that you basically were trying to tell the story that I'm sure you've got a million questions over and over and over and over again prior. So in a way, it's like, this is how we do things. This is what happens. This is, and this is our experience. And, in a way, I'm sure it was just a reiteration of things that you had been discussing for a while, but again, to be inspired and go through the process and then find an illustrator. And how long did it take you from the time you thought, I'm going to write this book, till you've got the illustrator and then you got it published? How long of a period of time was that?
It was pretty quick.
I'm not surprised.
Maybe a year. Wow, it was quick. And then I was like, all right, I got to write book number 2 now. And, there's real life people in the books, because it's really about our life.
Sure.
It takes place here. It was extremely well. I only printed a couple because I was going to give them to the schools, and then out of nowhere it won an award, and the demand was there. And then, it wasn't just local bookstores or schools. It was, or me giving it to people. It was like Amazon, and now it's, Barnes and Noble, and, across the country, because everywhere that, there's a need. There's always a need for education, and everything starts with education.
For sure.
I filled a space that wasn't filled, I think, just by telling somebody about a day in our life.
And now that it's happened and it's taken off, you've even hired a publicist. We know we've communicated with Lori or Linsky.
Forward publicity, because I didn't know all these things were, I was like, well, wait, I don't have time for all of this stuff. And So I was just, like I said, still in shock. And I was like, I can't do all of this. I can't, I have real estate. I have Mickey is beyond, full-time job. I am being a mom and cooking and having friends over. I mean, I live for that. That's what I live for, and advocating for Mickey and, helping him with everything, every step of the way.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. How many books do you have planned? Is it you're going to do a series? What's your thought? Where you going?
Yeah, I do want to do a series, and the next, then there was Mickey on the Move Farming, and it talks about Mickey's everyday life, and then another challenge with the cochlear implants, because at the time he was implanted, and for the first few years, the implants could not get wet. So when he would go swimming, he couldn't hear at all. If a sprinkler turned on out of nowhere or something, and with there you are.
We're here. We can hear you.
We can hear you. Sorry. You're good.
Sorry, my thing went away. With anything getting wet was a big, huge challenge. And then they finally came out with aqua cochlears, and it related directly to our life, because his dad is a farmer, and we here at our house during COVID, we started out with 4 chickens, and now we have 16 chickens. I have 2 beehives, a very huge vegetable garden, and we inherited this like a very, very old orchard, and we take care of it all, and it's a way to learn. I mean, talk about learning about the birds and the bees. This is homeschool, even though there's real school too.
Right.
For sure. Amazing. And so what's next after farming? Obviously, that's
probably Mickey on the Move Sports, so that my friend Marnie, who is the one that encouraged me to write a book, could finally write her 49ers book. Awesome. Mickey will be the character in there. And then, I mean, there's lots of things you could write about. So the aqua cochlear, the first book introduced cochlear implants. The second book introduced, the aqua cochlears. In the sports book, I would really like to talk about how we navigated through Mickey playing sports, playing soccer. I mean, the cochlears would fall off when he was running in the field, and then I would be like, don't anybody stop. I mean, I had to be there just to like the referee, like, don't anybody step on
don't move,
because it's like your computer, and they're very fragile. And so we figured out we still till today use men's wig tape, and we put it on the back of the cochlear for him so that it sticks behind his ear. And then you can wear a headband, or when he's playing tennis, he always wears a hat, but he still has to wear that men's wig tape on the back. And so I want to talk about that, because maybe a lot of parents don't know about that, and what's really good, the more groups you join, the more outreach the more you put it out there, the more people you're helping, with anything.
Always. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And so tell us, and you may have said this, my internet is, again, I'm sharing it with thousands of attendees here. So my internet's been kind of going in and out. So I apologize if you said this already. So you had said that we have a little bit of delay, right? He has a little bit of delay in learning, because he wasn't able to hear until 3 years old. And so at what age level or what grade level is he almost caught up? How far is he from again, what you would call the appropriate age group, I guess, from a learning perspective?
Without going into too much details, there are cognitive delays, and he attends school with children his age, and his learning level, they adapt to that.
Yeah.
But Mickey's very responsible, and he loves farming, and he is very skilled. He's very empathetic.
That's fantastic.
So he likes helping others, and and he loves helping animals. And he's extremely athletic. Like now he's really into tennis and golf, and he's good at both of them. He loves to mountain
Right.
bike. So he has his gifts, kind of
School with their
right and he's a visual learner, and he learns by doing, which is another, that's his way. And I do my best every day to inquire, ask questions, and reach out to resources
Right.
to help us develop whatever the best is to get him up to speed, and reach the goals that he needs to reach, and all that.
So is his communication a combination of sign and some verbal communication, all sign, or how does
It's
that
all
work?
verbal.
It's
And
all verbal. Okay, that's
it's all
fantastic.
verbal. Yeah. And him and I, we do sign, because one of the schools he was in from first through third grade, they did, it was like like kind of like dual, they did sign and talking, and one of the questions before he was implanted to Mickey's dad and I was, do we want a speaking child or do we want a signing child? And,
Interesting. I never even thought of that.
yeah.
Now, it's funny how they said, do you want one or the other? Did you have the option to say, well, I don't know, like maybe both or whatever's easiest for him?
Yeah, but we wanted we wanted to give him
The opportunity to
best of
speak.
both,
Yeah.
the best the best of the possibilities. Take everything as a risk that you're just trying. I mean, the operation in itself, and so we just jump on it.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's great. And Brian's not going to be back joining us just because the internet is really, the connection is really spotty where he is at the event. But that's one of the great things about being able to create something that can add value to other people and purpose. I think that's just one of the greatest things on earth. So, and that's what you've done with the book. That's what you're going to do with more books that you have coming. That's what's taking place today as we're here with you. And Brian is at this event, which I look forward to hearing what he's going to learn from the event as well too. So, but I think that's just great. And I never thought about that before going through therapy, where someone says, well, what do you want to focus on? Your child's ability to communicate verbally or using sign language, And so let me ask you this, considering that you wanted him to be able to be verbal versus sign, how did the sign language come into play? And is because I'm starting to think, well, even if because there's a challenge with, hearing, and he's hearing impaired, unless you avoid it altogether and just, decide to abandon it and never go anywhere near it, there's going to be an aspect of signing that comes into play anyway. Is that safe to assume? Is that how it
Oh,
came to be?
absolutely. Because when he takes those off, he cannot hear anything. And sometimes he needs to just take those off and not hear anything. And
That was going to be my question. When does he take them off? To sleep, just to
sleep, because
decompress?
they have batteries, so they need to be charged. And the aqua cochlears for swimming, they have a very, because it is with water and it's muffled. And so sometimes, if it's just him and I at home and he wants to swim, he'll say, can I just not wear them? And then if we need something, we can sign to each other. So he really used sign in the beginning when he didn't have that many words in his vocabulary. And also those first few years when he was swimming, and because he really loves to swim. And it's an outlet for energy, I mean, all
Sure.
need to spend their energy.
Definitely.
And I feel like we're all, even as adults, happier when we spend our energy and we
You got
sleep
to
better.
move.
But so we still use it every so often.
Let me ask you this. So tell me about the aqua cochlear. So if I'm understanding correctly, surgery is performed. You have the plain cochlear implants. When it comes to the aqua cochlear, there isn't additional surgery, but there's just different devices that are attached to what's already implanted in his brain. Is that correct, or do I have that wrong?
If you can imagine sort of putting a bathing cap on your head to swim. That's what it's like. It's like a little plastic thing that goes over the device. So so he wears the thing around his ear, and then if you can imagine, just putting a bathing cap on your head. So
Yeah.
it prevents water from getting to the processor, which is essentially the computer and
Right.
the magnet. And so no surgery, thank goodness.
Oh, okay. Good. That's and how long have the aqua cochlears been around? Do you know?
They've been around. Let's see, he was planted in 2012. I think 2016.
So when he first got his cochlear implants, the aqua cochlear didn't even exist.
Correct.
That is wild. Okay, so
And
I'm
they had only
familiar.
been around 25 years when he was implanted.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
This is a new development.
About 20 to 25 years ago, I worked in health insurance, and I worked in customer service, and then in grievance and appeals. And especially in grievance and appeals, what would happen is if someone was denied coverage for something, they would file an appeal. And I started out with what was a small company. Usually it eventually got bought by a larger conglomerate. And, prior to that sale, though, what would happen is, as a grievance and appeals representative, you would meet with a medical director to give the human side as to why something might, should be covered. And the medical director, who's a doctor, would give the medical reason as to why he agreed or disagreed or whatever the case might be. And so cochlear implants came about. They would come across my desk, a couple of times, and I was like, I had no idea what they were. So I didn't realize that they were that new. And to know that the aqua just didn't even exist at that point in time, that's fascinating.
Right. And they're gonna, now they have and also since then, something called the Kenzo has been developed. And rather than having the processor wrap around your ear and the magnet attached to your head, it's just like the magnet attached to your head part. It's like a little disc the size of a $50, if you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a Kenzo, and it's attached to that place where the magnet is in your head. And then, so it's everything in one. For people that are very active, it's not ideal, especially somebody like Mickey, he's working on a farm. They could be lost very easily. And then, the magnet falls off, it falls off. There's nothing holding it secure like that men's wig tank I was discussing, or anything that you could, no safeguards.
Right. So when we talk about, innovation, and in business is always about, identifying a problem and offering a solution. So for anybody out there that's listening, that's in the tech field, there's a solution for a more sport friendly cochlear implant than the ones that already exist. So there's from a business standpoint, there's a market, but just from a spiritual standpoint, there's a need and an opportunity to add to people's quality of life. So those of you that are in that field that are listening, get to work.
That's right. Because nothing, if you don't change something, you can't grow. And there's luckily new developments every day through the doctors and the speech pathologists and everything. It's really amazing. And I feel like it's my job as a parent to find every resource available to to live it, for Mickey to have a typical life. And that's what we've done the whole time, to not label, to not, to make him, mainstream in school. And
right.
And he is confident and, very active and social. And as I mentioned, empathetic.
Yeah.
I think that, and we focus on gratitude every day.
Yes.
And we say what we're thankful for every single day. And
definitely.
And every day he's thankful for his cochlear implants, because he knows without them he can't hear at all. And every day we're grateful for doctors and speech pathologists and teachers and kind people, because that's another, being kind is essential.
Kindness is everything. I'm going to ask you to do something that you probably, I don't know you well enough to say that you've never done it, but I know you well enough to know that there's times you probably don't do it and don't overlook it. and because I also think it's part of the human experience. But if you mention that he's all those things and you see that, allow yourself some credit or the good feeling that you've contributed to that, because that doesn't just happen, So it doesn't have to be prideful or boastful, but it's okay to, you know what, I can feel good about that. We all deserve to, feel good about ourselves. And sometimes we're so focused on the race and the journey and the destination that we don't even realize what we've accomplished along the way. So allow yourself to, just from one warrior to another, allow yourself to give yourself credit and accept the credit for him being where he is and where he's going, because you've got a village around you. It sounds like from everything that you've said, there's still a great relationship with his father and everything, but you're responsible for your actions, and the ones that you've put forth have so much to do with who he is, how he contributes to the world, and who he continues to be, and the man that he'll grow into. So allow yourself to take that credit.
Thank you.
Yeah, most definitely. Because it's everything. We're so busy trying to do what we do, and you're not doing anything for for glory. You're trying to find answers to problems and solutions. And so when those things are taking place, we might not always know. So so that is fantastic. So what do you have coming up next? And then for those that are actually looking live on Facebook or on our YouTube channel after the fact, we've got the link on the screen where you can get Mickey on the Move Farming, the latest book, on Amazon. You can find it there. And on Amazon you can also follow authors, and so you can find Michelle there at as well. So if you just go to Amazon and look at Michelle Wagner or Mickey on the Move, you'll find where you can purchase the books as well. And where might people be able to follow or contact you and just keep up to date with the things that you're doing?
Well, I have, being a realtor, I'm on all sorts of social media platforms, but I have a website, michellewagnerauthor.com. And there you can see all the different places, from Barnes to Noble, the different bookstores. You can see, you can kind of see a timeline basically of, the whole process of finding out Mickey was deaf to being implanted to his life today. And a lot of we actually, Cochlear Americas, the big company, that they, they did a story on us, how I can help other parents, and parents helping other parents and asking questions and being open and available is how things get developed and resources become, and decisions are made and answers are found through all types of community efforts.
Definitely. And did you say Cochlear America?
Cochlear Americas is what the cochlear implants are. And so on their website,
okay.
they and everything is on my website, michellewagnerauthor.com.
Okay, good. Because we have that on the screen as well, so people can see that.
And Instagram, and the book has its own Instagram, Mickey on the Move, and Facebook page as well, and Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere.
Great. Well, we're getting to the point where we're sort of winding down just a little. And we're at the point in the show just about where we ask the following question. Our ability to change the world is tied to our ability or our willingness to change ourselves. And so based on that, with that in mind, give us just one example. If you have two, that's great, but at least one of a thought or a belief that you once felt strongly, but no longer believe to be true. And there's no wrong answer. I always tell people, if you're, it could be deep and philosophical, or it could be that I once thought that pepperoni pizza was everything that there is, and now I no longer like pepperoni. That might seem shallow, but it doesn't matter what it is.
Well, I always, I would say as a child believed, I kind of had I had a mom and a dad and two sisters and grandparents and food to eat and everything like that. And, that's how life was supposed to go. And then you're hit with challenges. And, my life was pretty pretty, pretty planned out and pretty, I had good
Comfortable.
grades, good students. I was a good student. I had friends. Everything that I tried, I had success at. And,
Right.
and then, all in 1 year, kind of, not being able to conceive and adopting and finding out Mickey was deaf and going through a divorce. And, coming out of it, having a happy home, having a really good life, and being a single mom, that, anything is possible, and nothing is, you can't expect everything. And, movies are movies and books are books, but there is no perfect, no such thing as perfection. All we can do is all try together. And I would say just that, anything is possible. Like, you can get through anything. If there's a lot of things I thought I couldn't get through, and I have, and I'm there to tell everybody, no matter how bad it seems, there is a light at the end of the tunnel somehow.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Well, as we wrap up, I want to, before I get to thank you, I want to make sure that we share just a couple closing points here. The first thing is, we had a previous guest on the show, Billy Price, who's a founder of the company called Billy Footwear. And what they do is they make adaptive footwear for people with disabilities that may have challenges putting shoes on. And they're an amazing organization. And if, we have the link on the screen, if you utilize that link to purchase a pair of shoes from Billy Footwear, you will get a 10% discount. They're a fantastic organization, and Billy's story is equally amazing. The next thing is, Brian and I founded a men's group called The Den. And it was just an idea of, there to be a place where men can come and express themselves. I used to be the person that when I heard a men's group, I envisioned a bunch of guys sitting around a campfire trying to see who could push a beard out the furthest and who was the most grizzled and who had the biggest kill of the day. And those things just don't apply to me. But having been a member of a men's group, probably about, I think it's maybe 3 years ago, I think right around COVID, got something out of that. And we thought, if men need a group and a place to just kind of express themselves, considering that society doesn't always encourage that, it probably is twice as important for a man who might be a caregiver or parent or dad to someone with special needs, whether it's a diagnosis, someone that is elderly, whatever the case might be. And so the link is on the screen there where you can register for the group called The Den. We meet bi-weekly each Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific on Zoom. And our next gathering is actually this week. And then the last thing is we've got an event that's coming up in October 13th, I believe. Myself and two friends of ours, one that works in real estate and the other that works as an estate planning attorney, we're going to be touching on, I'll be touching on just basic financial literacy, and the estate planning portion will be covered by our attorney friend, and then real estate in terms of like, when is the best time to buy? How do you get ready to buy? Things of that sort. As we've always said, anything that affects the general population affects those of us in the special needs community even more so. And so what's important to all is twice as important to us. So the link for the registration is on the screen as well, or you can also go to Eventbrite and look up Someday is Today. That's spelled SUMDAY. Is today. And so at this point, I just want to thank everyone that has taken the time to join us here today live. Thank everyone that may be joining us after the fact. And Michelle, I want to thank you for your time today. I think, one of the great things about what we do here is being able to build worthwhile relationships with people and add to the village and have it grow. So thank you so much for your time with us here today.
Thank you so much.
Most
happy
definitely.
Birthday again.
Thank you so very much. That means a lot. And I just want to say, again, just remember that questions are more powerful than statements. We should judge less and try to be a little more childlike and less childish. And wherever you are within the sound of my voice, just know that